everybody. Sometimes you just gotta wear a hat. There's a whole theme there. Religion and funny hats. There seems to be some connection. It also seems that some traditions, they're really big on you covering your head, and others are really big on you not covering your head. So that's something to ponder. But joking aside, Mandion Astral Oracles, welcome and good to be with you. On this day of the full moon, I'm going to bring you an Arcturian full moon update. But I'll also just comment and share a little what's going on with the energies, because speaking of which, I feel very overwhelmed by this, by like these floods of energy, and the eclipses, and everything that's been going on. And of course, a lot of people share with me, or work with the entities in sessions, and so the pattern that's really forming in both in my own and people's experience is one of coming up against the blocks of familiar relationships or family issues. And what I'm really getting for a lot of people is that situations have manifested or cropped up due to often unforeseen circumstances, where they are all of a sudden very confronted with their family, and they sort of feel that there's something that they need to rectify or set right, or something that they need to make other people, or their family members, or their parents often actually understand. And at the same time, they seem to be at an impasse where it's simply impossible to do. And I think I'll offer some generic advice that's been coming up in the sessions, that's helpful. And that's essentially this idea about well, not changing others. That essentially you can never ever change other people. What you can do is you can um, change yourself, and then act as a possible influence. And of course, that's almost an insufferable cliche, but that's where I'm speaking in these vibrational terms, that it makes a lot of sense, right? That what you do is you work to heighten and improve your own vibration, your own fundamental state of being. And by doing that, what then happens is that people that you then become slightly out of sync with, they're either offered to accompany you into that vibrational rise, and they're sort of tag along on that experience, which of course isn't a linear process, but moves back and forth, more spiraling, but generally hopefully upwards, or otherwise. The relationship will start to change, and sort of find another way of existing, redefining itself based on the changes that's been taking place in you, and maybe in other people, and that's also all right. And possibly it will even fade out of your experience, either for temporarily or generally. And it's just very helpful to go about it this way, because it sort of reclaims, let's say, the control, or the power, the sense of the sense of agency within this process. If you can go, okay, but then I'm actually also dealing with a lot, so I'll try to, I don't know, tend to my diet, or be a little better with the information I take in, or allow myself to be quiet for a little longer, or take some walks, or something which is both, in vibrational terms, heightens your vibration, but it's also just a locus of control that you can operate with. And if you manage to get a little better from that place, then other people who are also going through like crazy stuff at this moment, even your family, they might even respond to it, and you may also come to a place of acceptance where it's, yeah, but I'm not in charge of making people feel the way that they should be feeling. And if it's so hard for me to like continually feel balanced and at ease and equanimous in my own experience, then of course what compels me to think that I can make other people feel that way. And of course, at the same time, there is the paradox that sort of sharing your hardships, for instance, or these experiences can actually be very healing and helpful to others. So in my personal experience, for instance, like I'm back in Denmark, I'm trying to put my life together, and I'm confronted with my family, and right now I'm privileged enough to be able to stay in this apartment, and my father stays with his partner up in Northern Zealand. So it is kind of a privileged situation for me to be able to fall apart and put the pieces back together. And of course, at the same time, um, like my family is close, and it's hard to deal with it, and it's hard to deal with them dealing with me, dealing with stuff. If you know that kind of meta feeling, if you don't even know where you're at yourself, it's very hard for well, for other people to understand where you're at, and it's hard for you to communicate that to them. So all those aspects are in play. And then about a year ago, like I had some misunderstandings or of falling out with my sister, and we haven't really been on good speaking terms. And then I finally got a hold of her last week, and we sort of managed to talk it out, and leave it on a good note. And then um, I began feeling like massive pains in my sacrum, and I actually kind of, I don't know if it began, but Sophia, a friend of the show, asked some questions in the last live stream with Raphael about the sacrum and its spiritual meaning and stuff, and then that kind of cropped up into my head the idea that I've had these spontaneous massive aches in my sacrum before, and then it cropped. I started thinking about that, and this Tuesday I just woke up, and my sacrum was so achy, like it's been painful moving, and it's been going up and down. And then I started like Wednesday, I started having pains in my ovaries, which I don't have physically, but my energetic body has. And so I had this kind of strange, achy kind of menstrual like pain, if that makes sense. And then it lifted the other day or yesterday, and I just had the feeling that okay, so today is the day my sister delivers, because she was pregnant, by the way, and so she wrote me, and she did deliver, and had a beautiful little baby girl, and they're both healthy, and everybody's so hooray for that. But it was kind of like this experience that even though I've been feeling very disconnected and fighting with all these emotional issues, there's also like this deep layer of connection, where a lot of the things you are experiencing, you're picking up from people you're having difficulties with, and you're so energetically connected to because they're family. And somehow my body picked up on that anticipation, and just like I feel like the tension of the expectation of that little girl who came to be and joined the family yesterday, and and that to me at least was a reminder that there is kind of an underlying pattern or order to these things, even when I feel very disconnected. And so what I also want to offer as generic advice or very helpful is that I've also partially had the experience myself that it's been harder for me connecting to my guides. Like I can easily do the channeling stuff for others, but it's been harder for me to just like tune in and talk to them. And my impression is from others, then it's been even harder for them. So so a lot of people have been feeling disconnected from the guidance, and there are also um, at the same time, people have also been informing me like synchronicities have been ramping up in the amount of sequential repeated numerals they see, and stuff like that, and even more stuff, and that's been my experience as well. And so that's to say that, well, being in connection with the higher self or embodying the higher self is essentially, ascension, becoming the full embodied imprint of your spiritual ideal being before you leave and dematerialize completely. And that's all fine and good, and we can strive for that through lifetimes, but essentially everything in your life is the higher self that's coming in to try to inform and guide you. Everything is a type of orchestration of the higher self. And so when you're not feeling connected, it's still connecting to you through these numerals, patterns, arrangements, your experience, animals, dreams, uh, people you run into, troubles with your family, whatever it is, it's still producing this input. So you can never be disconnected from your higher self. You can always, but you can feel disconnected from your higher self, and that's kind of the impediment. And so, with that preliminary, let's talk to the Arcturians, and I certainly hope you're handling these energies well. And I will also, living on a positive note, say that I can truly sense a shift is upon us. Like the heaviness is lifting, and this cold full moon, this long full moon on the northern hemisphere, is inviting in a type of rebirth. So let's speak to Umblam and the rest of the council, the rest of the gang. Thank you for being here, and I'll remember to say this. Thank you for liking, sharing, serving, and commenting. The blessings to you guys. Yes. Hello, sweet people of Earth. We are playing around with these instrumental vibrations that also reside in the human vocal cords. So, sweet people of Earth, we would like to transmit our love from the heavens and into your hearts. I am Umlam, your friend from the Arcturian Council in the ninth dimension, and connected to that lineage of the beings you call Arcturians. We have many names, but in our times we also saw some difficulties going through these cycles. And well, the shift that you are experiencing was also a shift that we had to undergo. It is much as you experience greater shifts in the old the cycles, the personal the cycles, or we could call them the archetypal cycles of your life, the patterns embedded into them. That is, you experience these stages such as birth, but also learning how to speak and walk, learning how to mate and partnering up with someone, having children, and then moving into retirement and dying. Well, this to some degree sums up normal human life, because these are stages and events that are embedded into your biological progress in your species. And so there are these fundamental shifts within your experience that are a little delicate, and the same goes for the development of species consciousness or collective consciousness. That is, you becoming aware, climbing the ascension ladder, and moving into the ninth dimension also requires some fuss at some particular stages. And so at stages 4 to 5, that is moving from the 4D consciousness of linear sequentiality into 5D consciousness of energetic awareness, you may experience certain troubles in your configuration. That is, these lines of linear sequentiality, these sequences of memory, they trouble you at the moment. And what could be more helpful in your experience to trigger these troubles than familiar relations? Partially, of course, these human beings being your oldest relations, being the people that you are embedded within literally at some point and after birth, then metaphorically, symbolically, and in any way you are codified into this matrix that's shaped by the energetic field of your parents, then embedded within greater community structures, so forth and so on. But what we are speaking to is that this reshaping of you, this is what is ripping at the seams. This is this idea of yourself, this identity as a linear being that's progressing in time. And what is happening is that when you're moving to the higher dimensional plane, and you can simply envision this in mathematical terms, that is, if you step one level back and then you realize that the flat surface of the quadrant, it becomes a cube, and then you can see it moving in space, and then now you can then see these movements in space not from the vantage points of moving forward in them, but rather seeing them from above as different resonance points of energy that are being activated within you. And so also, to answer a question that this friend of ours that we are speaking through has been pondering, you may see, for instance, in your movie industries, your fashions, in your musical expressions, in different things, that these codes are being reiterated faster and faster. So the repetition, the trying to reuse the modes of previous existence to make sense of the world, is something that signifies a more and more desperate, more and more frenetic push into the novel, where you are looking backwards in order to assemble and make sense of it. And so many of you will also be experiencing that you are latching on to certain things in your family relations, that you are latching on to certain ideas about how you may occupy yourself, or you are latching on to certain ideas about where you may live that may be more a product or a way for you to try to reactivate those codes to make sense of your life and restructure it. But realize that the novel, The Fifth Dimension, it has a structure to itself too. And so if you have also been putting in a lot of this work to move into that sense of yourself, the authentic, malleable, transmutable core that's breaking free from the chrysalis at the moment, that has been, well, truly in a chrysalis for years. In many ways, your year 2012 was the year when you may have seen dramatic from the outside, but climbed into this type of galactic chrysalis. And now, these, 9 years later, notice the symbolism here in this fertile number, you are being hatched into spreading your wings and moving into these new realities. And of course, all beginning is a little difficult. You may contemplate the third hexagram of the I Ching to, for instance, gain insights into this problem. But your wings, they are drying, and soon you will be ready to take flight and spread your wings. So during this long full moon, what we encourage you to do is to create sweetness around you, light candles. Allow yourself to enter a safe and comfortable space, to be overwhelmed, and maybe let the sorrow of acceptance roll over you, and taste the sweetness of being an emotive being that has consciousness, sentiment, well wishes, and empathy for their fellow beings, and therefore also wish them the best? And can you turn this around, this feeling, and cultivate it truly in that corresponding circuitry where you realize that the empathy that you display outwards can also be extended to yourself, and this will not diminish or the feelings that you then are able to extend to others. And this is not a selfish act, rather it is the act through which that you cultivate this feeling in general in the world, and thereby you will be able to extend more of it from a stable place where you can be that candle that's also lit in the darkness, and that brings a little comfort, warmth, and light to hard times. We look forward to soon communicating to you again about the year 2022. Exciting times to come, brighter days ahead. And so we thank you, we bless you, and we transmit our deepest love to you as a species, as individuals, as eternal souls. Our love. Goodbye. Yes, so with that, love to you guys.